Welcome to the 75th Digest of Antisemitism in Canada, where I have a lot of news and very few of them is good. This week, the police released the crime statistics for 2024, and as we can see here in this table, Jews are 25 times more likely to be targeted by hate crime. And if it looks like this number has been decreasing, this is only because how high it was in the previous years. Jews are only listed as religion, but not as ethnicity. And many Jews like myself are not religious, so I'm wondering if I became a target of a hate crime, would they list me as Arab or West Asian, or maybe other race or ethnicity? According to Jewish organizations like B'nai B'rith, the anti-Semitic incidents rose in Canada a lot more sharply than the police reports indicate. It is very possible that this is because RCMP had absolutely zero trainings on anti-Semitism in 2024. 11 people were arrested last week in Toronto at a protest downtown. One of the arrested is Leslie Solomonian. She was very active with the University of Toronto encampment last year, and she praises martyrdom. Among the 11 people arrested, they faced different charges. Some of them were obstruction of peace officer, assault of police officer, possession of a prohibited weapon, and carrying a concealed weapon. I wonder what weapon that was. I also wonder if among the arrested people were people here who chanted death to the TPS. TPS is the Toronto Police Service. In Edmonton, a police officer tells the protester that she won't be able to film a police officer in Gaza. And let's see what she says in response.
You would not be able to film police officers or military.
Are you bringing up Palestine right now? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you justifying the fucking genocide of Palestinians with what you're doing? I wouldn't be able to film police in Palestine, this motherfucker says. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? That just proves how racist and fucking small-minded you people are. Fucking bullshit.
So I was born in a country where the police were, and still are, the worst and the most dangerous and brutal enemies of the people. This is a symptom of a dictatorship. Complete disrespect of police like we have here in Canada is a symptom of anarchy, and none of these are great. The theme of the anti-Israel campaign this week is starvation in Gaza. It is almost as intense as the All Eyes on Rafah campaign last year, and similarly, it corresponds to Israeli military success against Iran and also corresponds to Hamas's loss of control of humanitarian aid. This campaign is truly overwhelming. In mainstream media, you can see photos of starving children from other conflicts like Syria or Yemen. You can see photos of children with genetic diseases that look scary and horrible. You can see staged photos of allegedly starving children with overweight parents, or even AI-generated pictures. But all this still leads to increase of hatred towards Jews and Israelis, as you can see here. Banging pots and pans was the new trend this week. Did you notice the Che Guevara flag? And here is one more from Ottawa.
And here comes the Palestinian Youth Movement organized Pots and Pans protest. Pots and Pans protest, make noise for Gaza.
This is very ironic that here they are walking in front of a courthouse where there was a trial for Chris Barber and Tamara Lich, the leaders of the Freedom Convoy. The prosecution is asking for 8 and 7 years for them respectively, which is a staggering double standards considering that we are seeing so many noisy, unlawful protests in the last year and a half across Canada. Here in the story, you can see a phrase, wear a watermelon, pin and keffiyeh, make Zionists uncomfortable everywhere. And I'm glad that they're finally admitting that watermelon, pin and keffiyeh are symbols of terrorism that are supposed to make Jews feel uncomfortable. Here you can see a few graffiti writings in Vancouver. Zionism is racism is a resolution that was passed by the UN in the 70s, but as anti-Semitic as UN is, even they had to repeal it because it is completely undefensible, but it doesn't stop the local anti-Semites, of course. This is a very known activist in Vancouver. This week, he dedicated his efforts to harassing Planted. This is a food truck owned by a Jewish person. So, if you are in Vancouver, please come and support Planted. They have great food and they really need our support. Here is another Vancouver anti Israel activist. As you can see, he is a communist, a big supporter of Sean Orr, our communistic city councilor, and he likes to walk around and stand in the intersection with a huge Palestinian flag. He's also a very evil person, as you can see here in this Instagram post. I'm not a huge fan of Biden as a president or as a person, but this is simply disgusting. Chalk drawing and flag waving are really cheap, but over the weekend a plane was seen flying in Vancouver with a blood libel saying Israel is starving Gaza. This week, the Canadian government joined European countries, New Zealand, Australia, and a few other entities, and they signed a statement saying, "We strongly oppose any step towards territorial and demographic change in the occupied Palestine," and also saying, "We are prepared to take further action to support an immediate ceasefire." It is not very clear to me what action specifically they meant, but as we can see, Hamas thanked the Canadian government. It's the third time this year, and this should be truly embarrassing for them. However, it didn't at all satisfy the anti Israel activists in Canada, and they screamed, "Carney, Carney, your hands are red." Carney continued trying to please the Hamas supporters in Canada. He issued the statement condemning the Israeli government for starving the civilians in Gaza. The best title about this was on Babylon Bee, the satirical website that said, "Gaza said to be starving, but not release the hostages starving." There is no starvation really. Here is a video of all the aid that's waiting for the UN to distribute it. Rumors are circulating saying that Canada is about to recognize a Palestinian state, but my theory is that Canada is waiting to receive $10 billion from Qatar like France just did. Deborah Lyons is stepping down from her position as special envoy on preserving Holocaust remembrance and combating anti-Semitism. She was appointed shortly after October 7. Her office doubled the budget from 1.2 million and achieved very little, if anything at all. We also have a special representative on combating Islamophobia with a similar budget, but she is a lot more effective. And honestly speaking, I think we should have none of those representatives and not for financial reasons. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation released a report stating that Sharia-compliant loans should be offered in order for the housing policy to achieve inclusivity and to reflect the rich cultural mosaic of Canadian society. The report also notes the introduction of an element of Sharia law into the Canadian legislative regime would be a serious precedent. Oh, yes, it will. Even without Sharia mortgage, Muslims in Toronto live in Thorncliffe Park, which is one of the most densely populated Muslim communities in North America, with more than 8 places to pray in 1.2-kilometer radius. So I don't understand why they insist on blocking streets for prayer. These isolated communities make cultural assimilation practically impossible and resemble the strategy of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is a parent organization of Hamas, and it is banned in most Muslim countries, but it's perfectly allowed in the West. Please sign the petition at banmuslimbrotherhood.com to ban Muslim Brotherhood in Canada as well. Last week, I was accused of bigotry for opposing Muslim prayers in front of a basilica in Montreal. Am I a bigot? Christians don't block streets for prayers in Muslim majority countries. In many of Muslim majority countries, actually they ban, persecute, or restrict Christianity. I don't suggest banning Islam in Canada, but I simply expect Muslims to treat others with respect, just like people of any other religion should treat others with respect. Why would holding Muslims to the same standard as others get me labeled as anti-Muslim bigot? Canada is not yet a Muslim majority country, but it most definitely discriminates against Christians. A Christian performer was cancelled in several venues. A church that eventually invited him to perform was threatened, raided by police, smoke bombed by Antifa, and fined by the city of Montreal. The mainstream media accuses him of being MAGA and transphobic. I'm not really familiar with his views, but I want to remind you that last month we had a Light Upon Light Islamic conference in 4 locations in Canada with speakers preaching that every rainbow flag should have a picture of a person with STDs last month, and this didn't get any reactions at all. Former City of Ottawa lawyer pleads guilty to defacing the National Holocaust Monument. Two charges, mischief exceeding $5,000 and harassment by threatening conduct, have been withdrawn. Dahlia Kurtz sued Yves Zangler and Pink Floyd co-founder Roger Waters for defamation that led to severe harassment, threats, and emotional distress. I really hope that she wins because she is an amazing advocate, but I have mixed feelings about the case. Emotional distress is an especially double edged sword. Some people are distressed by the existence of Israel. As for being called a sick genocidal maniac or fascist thug, I am no stranger to those slurs, but if someone had threatened me as a result, it's the person uttering the threats who should be punished. That said, the people who called me names had a smaller following, and with great power comes great responsibility. McMaster graduate, a professor of sociology and criminology, diversity, equity, inclusion plus justice consultant, and anti decolonial scholar activist, Dr. Sabrina, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, I apologize, wrote in her ex post: a military force to protect Palestinians from being genocided already exists. It called Hamas. Then she goes on to explain that violence is a necessary form of resistance to oppression. Her areas of expertise are Islamophobia, race and ethnicity, ethno-religious identity, social justice, gender, and mental health. She is also in AQX's top 50 influential Muslims. SFU is hosting an organizers boot camp to unite and organize all oppressed and exploited people. It's a week long skill building and political education workshop. It sounds innocent, but just in a few clicks on event speakers, you can find endless cafes, fundraising for Gaza, student encampments, IGV, and so on and so forth. The curator of Art House TO explained that they featured the graphic calling for the death of the IDF because it was, I quote, artwork we felt culturally relevant at the time. They are not wrong. Calling for the murder of Jews has become culturally relevant. Sometimes it's more nuanced, like these cute children's clothes with symbols of terrorism. I went to document a pro Hamas rally in Vancouver on Saturday, and what truly breaks my heart is the number of little children who are being indoctrinated at these hate fests. Seeing little kids wearing watermelon clothes or holding flags of a terrorist state reminds me that even if we win this round, our children will, in turn, have to face anti Semitism again. This is really a gut wrenching thought. Thank you for listening. Have a good week.